Hello, dear friends. It's a pleasure to be here and welcome to our weekly program on Kardec Radio, where we nourish our souls 24/7. Spiritist teachings, the good news, everything is available to us anytime, any time of the day. What a blessing. And we thank God and the good spirits in both realms to allow us to meet here on this beautiful platform to open our minds and hearts to new teachings today. Teachings that seem to be very extra pertinent to our current times. And we are turning to Genesis, of course, because we've been studying Genesis. And today we will be starting a new chapter. It's chapter 18, and it's entitled The Time Has Come. Doesn't it feel like the time has come? Well, we will even feel more strongly like that, I believe, during the course of our program, and particularly at the end of it. It's very confirming, it's beautiful, it's exciting. So we're turning to page 411, which is in this section of, in this edition of Genesis. And again, the chapter is 18, The Time Has Come, and the subtitle for item 1, 2, 3, all the way through 7, which we will probably reach today, is Signs of the Time. And in order to support our teachings, we will be also sharing the screen. And I'm welcoming all the friends. Thank you so much for joining, dear friends. Before we switch away from this, we want to say hi to Mark and hi to Tony. And there's more friends. And we're grateful that we're all here together, expanding our sentiments. So now we will be sharing, and this was the wrong button. I'm going to share the screen. And now we're going to just quickly double check the technology to see that we're really appearing correctly on Kardec Radio. Yep, it seems to be working. All right, dear friends. So we will be discussing items 1 through 7. Okay, we're not going to read everything, but mostly quite a bit of it. And we'll be pausing and we'll have time to allow the teachings to sink in and to ponder them. So Allan Kardec begins by saying the time set by God has come. This book was written 150 some years ago, and it doesn't feel more real today than ever before. The time set by God has come, we're told everywhere, in which great events will occur for the regeneration of humankind. So we're setting the stage on a very positive note. Whatever hardship we've been going through, whatever hardship we're still experiencing, whatever turmoil we either observe outside of us on this planet right now or within our own selves, we know that these great events are occurring for a good purpose, the regeneration of humankind. And we're privileged to be here and being part and parcel of these events. In what sense must these prophetic words be understood? Good question, right? How can we actually understand? The time set by God has come. How can we understand it? And there is 2 ways. One is for the disbelievers, they hold no importance. And I'm pretty sure we won't count ourselves into that group. So for the disbelievers, they hold no importance. To them, they are only the expression of a childish, unfounded belief. And we're talking about the words, the time set by God has come. For the majority of believers, which we may be part of, they contain something mystical and supernatural that seems to be the precursor of the upheaval of the laws of nature. Is that true for us? Are we believers? And are we thinking that these events, this time set by God that has come, is here to upset the laws of nature? Well, both interpretations are equally erroneous. So if you count it to yourself to one side or the other, there is a little disappointment here. Both are erroneous. Why? The former is erroneous. The former is for the disbelievers that these words have no importance because it implies the denial of providence. And we know God exists. The latter, those for the believers who think it's a mystical and supernatural events that will be disrupting natural laws or the laws of God. These words do not declare the disruption of nature's laws, but rather their fulfillment. All right, so what, with so many words, did Alan Kardec help us to understand? He said that the time set by God has come is the fulfillment of God's laws. So we're on the right track. These events are for our own regeneration, and they're absolutely in line with God's laws. Now we're feeling better, right? We know that everything has its rightness. Beautiful. So these events fulfill God's law. Let us move on to item 2. Everything in creation is in harmony. Everything in the creation is in harmony. Let us always remind ourselves of that. Everything reveals a foresightedness that cannot contradict itself either in the smallest matters or in the greatest. Everything reveals foresightedness. There's no contradictions. Everything in creation is in harmony. No matter how disharmonious moments in our lives, personally or globally, appear to be, they are in harmony. That's pretty amazing, isn't that? That's the good news. Thus, right from the start, we must discard all ideas of capriciousness as irreconcilable with the divine wisdom. So there is no capriciousness happening at any time ever, because that would be irreconcilable with divine wisdom. Second, if our age has been designated for the fulfillment of certain things, it is because in the evolution of the whole, they have their reason for being. Our age has been designated for the fulfillment of certain events. Then they have a reason for the being of all. Everything, we are on track. All we need to have is faith, and we need to be collaborators with God's will. We're continuing with item 2. Thus stated, we will say that our globe, namely Earth, like everything else, is subject to the law of progress. If we want a little primer on the law of progress, we'll go to the Spirit's book. There is one whole chapter that Alan Kardec dedicated to the law of progress. Very interesting, illuminating, I want to say almost vital study for us. It progresses, so our globe progresses physically through the transformation of the elements that compose it, and morally through the purification of the incarnate and discarnate spirits that populate it. So there is this progress that the law of progress we fall under, we are part and parcel of, that has 2 items. One is the physical progress and the other one is the moral progress. The physical progress of planet Earth manifests through the transformation of its elements. And the moral progress is us, both incarnate spirits as well as discarnate spirits that populate the earth. Here we see which role we play in. And hopefully that raises a wonderful green flag pointing us towards our dedication to our inner transformational work. Both of these areas, both the physical as well as the moral areas of progress, accompany each other and march in parallel. So we need both. They work and march in parallel. They're not separate. Because the perfecting of the habitation is in keeping with the perfecting of the inhabitant. That to me is a very important sentence. So both areas of progress, the physical progress as well as our moral progress, accompany each other, and they march in parallel, because the perfecting of the habitation, which means the globe, is in keeping with the perfecting of the inhabitants, which is us, both incarnate as well as discarnate spirits. Physically, science has proven that the globe has undergone transformations that have made it habitable for beings more and more perfected. Now, when we go back in Genesis, Alan Kardec spends quite a bit of time on explaining the cataclysmic moments in evolution of planet Earth and how it all came together. Now, we've reached a point of evolution as a result of the progress of the habitation of this planet, that now these events that are happening can happen. We're ready for it on both levels, our moral as well as physical progress. The plateau is ripe. Morally, humankind progresses by the development of intelligence, our moral sense, and the softening of customs. So the moral progress consists, according to, as a matter of fact, I want to change something that I said earlier that's not correct. This whole section was not written by Alan Kardec, and I just briefly had a moment of amnesia and I forgot. It was written by a spirit by the name of Arago. Now, we believe it's Francois Arago or Arago, I don't know how you pronounce it, who lived between 1786 and 1853. And he was a mathematician, he was a physicist, and he was an astronomer. And he discovered the principle of production of magnetism in a certain way. We can go really deep into his life, and I believe it's that spirit. And he is writing this particular section, so I apologize for that. So, moral progress consists of the intelligence, of the development of our intelligence. It's why we're always here in Spiritism. Let's study, let's accumulate knowledge. Not just Spiritist knowledge, any kind of knowledge. It's part of our progress. That's why Emmanuel in Thought and Life speaks about the two wings that help us ascend to God. We need to perfect our knowledge. We need to learn constantly new things, but at the same time, we need to also strengthen our wing of love, our wing of service, our wing, that's the moral sense, so to speak, applying love in action. And also an interesting aspect, softening of customs, of our customs. While the improvement of the globe occurs under the control of physical forces, humans participate in it through the efforts of their intelligence, because the moral progress. They cleanse unwholesome regions, render communication easier, and make the earth more productive. So our role is really important as we are more and more realizing. So it's important not to be idling. It's important to be a positive, cooperative force on planet Earth, to be constructive and not be destructive. We're needed. The dual progress, the moral and the physical, occurs in two ways. One is slow, gradual, and imperceptible. And the other shows itself through changes that are more abrupt, each one producing a more rapid ascendant movement, which by clear signs marks out the progressive periods of humankind. So these two areas, our moral progress and our the physical progress of planet Earth, happen in two different ways, either slow, gradual, or imperceptible, and sometimes abrupt, but they work together. These movements are somewhat fatalistic as a whole, but subordinated to human free will. So we cannot, as an individual, change progress. There's actually one question that Alan Kardec asks in the Spirit's book, is how is it possible for individuals or even some group of individuals to hold the wheel of progress, the cart of progress? And the answer from the Spirits is no. They're just like a pebble on a huge cart that's rolling, and it's just a little bump, maybe at most, but progress is pushing on. Can't be stopped. And that's what it means by fatalistic. It's predestined. Has to happen. The law of progress. It's not capricious. It's aligned with God's law, God's will. This is why the progressive movement is sometimes partial, that is limited to one particular race or nation, whereas at other times it is more generalized. Because sometimes it's slow, it's gradual, sometimes it's just in certain regions of the planet, certain peoples that experience it, and then sometimes it's global, like right now. Right now, we have a global movement. We're all experiencing the same, or close to the same. It's never quite the same, but I'm sure you know what I mean. Human progress, therefore, is effectuated in virtue of a law. Thus, since all the laws of nature are the eternal work of divine wisdom and foresight, everything that is the effect of these laws is the result of God's will. Not an accidental or capricious will, but an immutable will. So human progress is the result of God's will. It's not accidental. Nothing about it is accidental. Nothing about it is capricious. Why? Because God is not operating on accidents, is not accidental, because God is not capricious. God is immutable. God is all intelligent. And God is perfect. And if God's will is that, then human progress is the result of God's will. We can totally trust it. Consequently, when humankind is mature enough to ascend a degree, one can say that the time set by God has come. And remember, we started off the chapter by saying the time set by God has come. Well, when does the time set by God come? When humankind is mature enough to ascend a degree. We would say it's obvious that we're at that point because we're ascending a degree, right? So we're mature enough. We're ready for this experience that we're going through. One can say that the time set by God has come, just as one can say that in such reason, the time has come for the ripening of the fruit and the harvest. It's always so beautiful to look to nature because everything is really revealed to us by nature. So it's harvest time. The time we're mature enough is right now. The time set by God has come. Let us move on. Item 3. From the fact that the progressive movement of humankind is unavoidable, law of progress, moving forward. Because it is part of nature, it's part of God's law. It does not follow, however, that God is indifferent. So yes, God has created the law of progress and humankind is inevitably moving forward. But that doesn't mean that God is indifferent. It's gone. It's like, okay, I leave you to your own devices. No, God is not indifferent towards it. And that after having established the laws becomes inactive, leaving things to continue by themselves. No, we're not having a disappearing God. And that's what's so consoling. And of course, it's God and all the good spirits, all the emissaries of God that are probably working extra overtime right now, supporting us. Undoubtedly, God's laws are eternal and immutable. God's laws are eternal and immutable, but only because God's will itself is eternal and constant, and because God's thought uninterruptedly animates all things. Let's say that again. God's thought uninterruptedly, that means without any break, animates all things. We're never, ever alone. It all has its perfect harmony and order. Isn't that such a beautiful, consoling, heart-opening message? Where we're invited to shed all anxiety, to know, yes, it may play out messy on our realm. And of course, we don't see further than our own nose tip most of the time, but we can trust the process. This is what this message is, among other things, about. Let us continue. God's thought penetrates everything and is the intelligent and ongoing power that keeps everything harmonious. Everything stays harmonious. So God is not indifferent. God's thought is uninterruptedly animating all things. God's thought penetrates everything. God is the intelligent and ongoing power that keeps everything harmonious. Thank God. Thank God. God, you're so good. Yes. Thus, God incessantly watches over the execution of the divine laws. And the spirits who populate space are God's ministers, charged with the details according to the attributions corresponding to their degree of advancement. What is Argo saying here? He's saying that God is incessantly watching over us. Continuously, God is watching over us. And the spirits who populate the space are God's ministers. So all the more evolved spirits that are populating a space, that are surrounding us 24/7, are God's ministers, charged with the details according to the attributions corresponding to their degrees of advancement. So depending on how advanced the different spirits are, that's their job that they're executing in supporting us, in being there for us. We're never alone. Thank you. Thank you, God. And then, of course, we have our beautiful own guides that were gifted to us from the cradle to the grave. Our angels. Oh, it's such a wonderful moment. Yes. All right. Item 4. The universe is at the same time an unfathomable mechanism. Can't really imagine how it all works, right? The mechanism is beyond our understanding. It is managed by a no less unfathomable number of intelligences, an immense government in which each intelligent being has its part in the action under the watchfulness of the Supreme Lord, whose single will maintains unity everywhere. So we can't quite understand the mechanism of this universe. It's too vast. We can't even picture the universe. We can barely picture the vastness of planet Earth. And that's just but a speck in the bigger picture, right? But let us just believe that it's unfathomable, that there is a huge amount of intelligences running this immense government. And it's all under the single will of God. And God's will, which is perfect and immutable, is maintaining unity everywhere. Again, we are invited tonight to open ourselves to the immense support and perfection and harmony that we are swimming in, even if we don't see it, even if we don't feel it. It is so. Thank you, Argo, for helping us to get with the program, so to speak. All right, let us move on. Item 5. Up till now, humankind has made incontestable progress. So we have made progress. Due to their intelligence, humans have achieved results never reached before regarding the sciences, regarding the arts, and material well-being. Now, this was written 150 some years ago, and we've gotten even so much further in the last 150 some years. So it is true, humankind has made incontestable progress. And it's based on our intelligence. And we have advanced in the science, in art, in the arts, and our material well-being. Yeah, on all levels. There is much progress yet to be made, however. We humans, have yet to make charity, fraternity, and solidarity reign amongst them in order to assure their moral well-being. So with all the progress based on our intelligence and our knowledge that we have attained, we are still lacking in certain areas. And that main area is our moral advancement, our moral transformation. And that's pretty obvious, isn't it? We see it probably more easily outside of us. But as we say, when you spot it, you've got it. It most likely dwells inside of us too. So this is where the focus of our work lies. We've heard it from many spirits. We heard it throughout. It's a message interwoven through spiritist messages. And now we're hearing it again from the spirit Argo. So we need to work on our capacity to practice charity. Now we know there is the physical charity, the material charity, which is in the almsgiving, which is in lending a hand. It's in all the material aspects when we're helping other spirits, both incarnated as well as discarnated. But there is also the moral charity, which we learn about in the gospel. And there we learn that is the harder one for us. That's the one we usually may not even know about. We don't even know there is moral charity. But Spiritism really helps us to understand what moral charity is. One definition we find in the Spirit's book when Alan Kardec asks, how can we define charity? Which is the moral charity he's referring to in this question. And the answer from the spirits on high, we all know, and we're just going to say it one more time, is goodwill towards all, benevolence towards all. It's not just this and that person or spirit, and then maybe not this one, towards all. And I love the practice of finding something good in someone or something that is hard to accept in particular. It's a beautiful practice because everything and everybody has good aspects too. Nobody is all rotten in their entirety, so to speak. So, benevolence towards all. Furthermore, it's indulgence towards others' imperfection. Indulgence towards others' imperfections. Can we do that? Can we see the good so much that we're not honing in only on the imperfection in others. It's so easy for us to see the speck in the other's eyes and overlook completely, and happily so, skippingly along, the huge plank that's posted in our own eyes. But tonight, we're reminded one more time that this is what we need to focus on every single day, each and every single one of us. And then lastly, it's forgiving others' offenses. Yes, it starts with forgiving ourselves. We need to forgive ourselves too. But we also need to forgive others. And when we forgive others, let us remember that we need to be forgiven so much. And if it's not that much in our current lifetime that we're in touch with, let us trust that there have been millennia of lifetimes where we have done things that we need to be forgiven for. So also in the Lord's Prayer, Jesus reminds us that we can only be forgiven to the degree we forgive. So forgiveness is pivotal. And then he mentions fraternity and solidarity. And in order for us to understand it more clearly, we looked up the definition of fraternity. Of course, there's more to it, but this is just it in a nutshell. Fraternity is a state or feeling of friendship and mutual support for another. So this fraternity towards all, this feeling, the state or feeling of friendship, it's the readiness to support each other, which is a form of charity as well. And then solidarity is the unity or the agreement of feeling or action, especially among individuals with a common interest. But at that moment, it becomes more exclusive. We can even open it up further and create a sentiment of solidarity and work and stretching on finding solidarity, even among those brothers and sisters who we don't have common interest with, we don't share common interest with. This feeling of unity, of agreement in feeling and action. Finding the good, finding the 1, 2, or 3 aspects where we do agree on. And usually it's past the mind and it's in love, because we all want to love and be loved. Love is always the common denominator. If we can look beyond all the other ripples and disagreements, different thought patterns and beliefs, and meet beyond those waves and connect in love, that's when solidarity, fraternity, and of course charity become easier. All right, let us move on. We're still on item 5. So what people need nowadays is not only the development of their intelligence, but the elevation of their sentiment. And for this, they must do away with everything that incites their what? What do we need to do away with? What do we need to drop in order to practice charity, fraternity, and solidarity more effectively? I can hear it. You are telling me selfishness and pride. Yes, of course, because that's the absolute perfect antidote to charity, fraternity, and solidarity. If we're stuck in selfishness and pride, the spirits in the spirit book teach us that already there. And then we read it over and over again. We study it. We hear it from the spirits, from Alan Kardec in the gospel. Also, there's a chapter entitled There is No Salvation Without Charity. And that puts it all into a nutshell for us. So selfishness and pride, we need to look at that. That's holding us back. And our goal is reminding us again. And that's a global disease, right? Global. All right, item 6. This time, however, will not entail a partial change. So remember the chapter started off, we're going back there, the time set by God has come. The time set by God has come. This time that has come, however, will not entail a partial change, a renewal limited to a certain area, people, or race. It will be a universal movement that will operate in the sense of moral progress. Wow. Isn't that what's going on? It's not just one country, one section, one group of people, one color of people. It doesn't matter. One, either the rich or the poor. None of that. None of that. This time, it won't be a partial change. This time, this renewal is not limited to a certain area, people, or race. No, it's global. It was called the pandemic, which means global, for the whole globe. It will be a universal movement that will operate in the sense of moral progress. And I'm sure if you look back who you were and what you did just a year ago to today, haven't we come a long way? Have we made use of this situation, this hardship that most of us experienced in order to progress morally? And if the answer is, oops, no, I didn't even think about that, well, it's never too late, right? This moment is then the moment when we're going to start, and that's beautiful. Doesn't matter, never too late. Now is better than tomorrow. But it's so uncanny, right? It's so amazing. It's just like, yes, this is what's happening, right? A new order of things is on the verge of being established. And those most opposed to it are working for it without even realizing it. Law of progress. Rid of the dregs of the old world and composed of more purified members, the future generation will find itself animated, which is disappearing by leaps, animated by different ideas and different sentiments than the present generation, which is disappearing by leaps and bounds. We have a lot of people discarnate right now. So let us say the sentence again. Rid of the dregs of the old world and composed of more purified members, the future generation will find itself animated by different ideas and sentiments than the present generation, which is disappearing by leaps and bounds. So hopefully we'll go with the program, we get with the program, right? That's tricky, because sometimes things that look like progress are not, and vice versa. Light of discernment. The old world will be dead and will live in history, like the medieval era with its barbaric customs and superstitious beliefs. Let me just quickly touch in with Facebook just to make sure we're still happening here. Okay, all right. Sorry about that, friends. Just want to make sure that we're recording, that we are on Facebook, and hopefully also YouTube and the other platforms. All right, so we're going back here. So we just learned that the future generation will be animated by different sentiments. The old world will be dead and will live in history, like the medieval era, with its barbaric customs and superstitious beliefs. Wouldn't it be funny to kind of just imagine what the future generations, like in 100 and 200 years, look back and going like, oh my gosh, what did these people think and do, right? It's beautiful, and we're part of it all. And we are like one tiny wheel in the huge government, as we learned earlier, of planet Earth, and doing our share. After having more or less exhausted the material well-being that is the product of intelligence, one realizes that the supplement to this well-being can only be found in what? So here we are, we have this beautiful material well-being, right? Everything is at the tip of a button. We just need to push it and boom, there it's happening, including this technology that allows us to meet, but also in our homes, which also makes us vulnerable because if the juice, so to speak, that powers all of this disappears, which is something that happens quite often here in California, we're stranded. And it really shows us how vulnerable our lives are in that regard. So our material well-being has never been better. And as he says, after having more or less exhausted the material well-being, what is left now? What do we need to focus on? We said it earlier and we're saying it again. It's in our moral development. We need to focus on charity, fraternity, and solidarity, and shedding selfishness and pride. Right, let us move on to item 7, which will be our last one, in case you were wondering. However, a change that is as radical as the one being prepared cannot be accomplished without commotion. So this was all written 150, 160 years ago. Pretty amazing. And now it feels like this is exactly happening. We're right in the middle of it. So this change that is as radical as the one being prepared or that we're in cannot be accomplished without commotion. We can attest to that. Yes, major commotion in all areas of each and everyone's lives. Without commotion, that was necessary. It's unavoidable. There will be an unavoidable struggle of ideas. Isn't that the truth? From this conflict, temporary disturbances will inevitably arise until the ground is leveled and equilibrium is reestablished. It's kind of just like a windstorm came and poof, lifted it all out of order, the old order that we knew before COVID hit the planet. It's all up in the air and it's still pretty dusty, right? It kind of feels like it's settling a little bit, but here it's being confirmed. It will settle. It will get better. So it's inevitable that we experience commotion and struggle. And he mentions, interestingly enough, struggle of ideas, and that is so true too. Right? So many different opinions. There's so many different directions. Struggle of ideas. From this conflict, temporary disturbances will inevitably arise until the ground is leveled and equilibrium is reestablished. We can't wait. Consequently, it is from the struggle of ideas, that the foretold grave events will emerge. So that's the base. And not from purely physical cataclysms or catastrophes. So if we waited for a piece of the earth to fall off, no, that's not where the next step in our evolution lies. It arises from the struggle of ideas that these grave events will emerge. Our struggle of ideas, and not from purely physical cataclysms or catastrophes. Now, these cataclysms, they happened in the past of the earth, more so than now. Widespread catalysms were the result of the earth's formation. And that's what we can read in Genesis earlier on. There were tons of them for the longest time. But we're beyond that. Now it's about our intelligence, but even more so our moral advancement. But he says it's from the struggle of ideas. And of course, ideas are also linked to our moral transformation, right? It's all linked. It's not separate. So widespread catalysms were the result of Earth's formation. Nowadays, it is no longer the entrails of the planet that are being stirred up, but those of humankind. And again, yes, we can only say yes. That's exactly what's going on. Now, what is the entails? The entails is the innermost part of something. So nowadays, it is no longer the entrails, the innermost part of the planet that is being stirred up, but those innermost parts of humankind. And that's exactly what's been going on. In particular, I mean, probably we can attest to it throughout our whole entire lives, depending on how old we are on a chronological scale. But in particular, globally, in the last year, year and a half, year and 3 months. What a confirming, yet appeasing, consoling piece of information. And we're going to pause here. This chapter still continues. It's a very long chapter. We will have items 8 through 9. And it's a long item that we haven't covered. And the next one will be talking more about these catalysms, these changes, explaining them a little bit more. And it's a nice breaking point right here, because they will be all quotations from other spirits. So we will pause, we will save that for next time. But we've really gotten the meat of the information. God predicted the time is now, and it is now. And we know where our work lies, friends. Let us stop sharing so I can actually see you. Yes, hi, wonderful. Our work lies most and foremost in understanding this chapter so we see a little bit of the bigger picture, and at the same time, to do what? To focus on our moral transformation. Our goal reminds us to work on our charity, particularly the moral charity, and solidarity and fraternity. This is how we can be most helpful to the progress, the inevitable progress of planet Earth. Thank you, Mark, for joining. Thank you, Tony, for joining. Thank you, Nora, for joining. Thank you, Veronica, for joining. Thank you, Robbie, for joining. And thank you, Linda, for joining. Much love, dear friends. And so, God willing, we will see you next week, same time, same place, with the continuation of this chapter. Much love. Good night.